Note, this episode of Swarthycast will contain spoilers for this book, Five Nights at Freddy's The Fourth Closet. Hello and welcome to Swarthycast. Yeah, I know, I'm very late on this episode, and hey, figure might as well finish out, the Five Nights at Freddy's trilogy, but what can I say? I didn't have much time to record after getting 4 of my teeth pulled, and, work, school, plus also after getting my teeth pulled, I woke up with one of the worst sore throats of my life that even now, a couple weeks out, I still haven't fully recovered from, but hey, recovered at least some of my voice, enough to record this, so I guess that's good. So anyway, Five Nights at Freddy's The Fourth Closet. So the interesting thing about this book is that I kind of have the opposite problem of the other books, where, the previous ones, I like the climax for the most part, but the character stuff in the beginning of the book, I, didn't really grip me, whereas this one was the opposite. The climax felt a bit anticlimactic, I guess, and left me feeling a bit empty, but the beginning of the book I was, really intrigued with. So, at the end of the previous book, Charlie seems to have died, and, then she comes out, no worse for wear. And this book, comes in after the aftermath, with John convinced that she's, an imposter, an imperfect, blah, fuck, words. An impossibly perfect, an impossibly perfect impersonator. There. And now my pop filter fell on my nose. And the beginning of the book kind of deals with John's, paranoid breakdown. Because while John does actually end up being right about this new Charlie being a fake imposter, he's not exactly in the best headspace, and, his first ideas about, what this imposter Charlie could be are weird. One of his ideas is that Charlie's twin brother was actually a twin girl, and then the purple guy, William Afton, raised that not dead twin child in order to, replace Charlie for some reason, to fuck with them for some unexplained reason, but no, actually, it's a robot with a chip that, confuses the brain and whatnot, kind of expanding on the big piece of tech from the previous book, with basically robots that can perfectly disguise themselves, or with chips that make you see things that aren't there on those robots, being kind of the main conceit of the Five Nights at Freddy's novels. Now, in addition to that, there's also a series of children being kidnapped by, what ends up being the purple guy, because of course he is. Also somehow owning a pizzeria. But yeah, this fake Charlie is actually Circus Baby, the animatronic from Sister Location, and, the one possessed by the spirit of Afton, the purple guy's daughter. Oh boy, I'm spoiling all the shit. One theme explored in this book is essentially how Charlie is viewed, with the fake Circus Baby Charlie being this, idealized, feminine, sexy version. She comes up into the meeting with, all the old friends in, this tight, form-fitting dress, as opposed to, her older, more tomboyish look, with John kind of initially guessing that just might be Charlie growing up, putting away the tomboy stuff. And also the fake Charlie mentions that, and the fake Charlie mentions, her Aunt Jen, Charlie's Aunt Jen, essentially, who's been in the books, in the previous books, wanted her to dress more feminine. So, in many ways, this, fake Charlie feels like an idealized, more feminine version of Charlie, more in line with what a proper girl would dress like and act like. Also, Carlton stares at her butt at one moment. There's this diner scene where, some of Charlie's friends, realize the fake Charlie is a fake Charlie, but, they already set up a date, so they, still go along with it. like, knowing that she's, fake Charlie who, like, murders people. John is, like, on the date with her while, like, Carlton and Jessica are, like, off to the side, like, watching, and, like, as she leaves, Carlton just goes, "Wow, she's hot!" Like, I mean, this does kind of tie into this, like, fake Charlie is idealized Charlie kind of thing. Carlton implied to be, like, sexually attracted to her, and even, like, this one interaction between the fake Charlie and Carlton where it seems the fake Charlie is trying to, like, seduce Carlton. Honestly, it was a bit of a weird scene, but, like, I mean, I guess it fits with the theme, even if Carlton Horndog is not exactly my favorite character, or favorite part of the character, I should say. But, like, this does kind of extend to the other major characters. There's, Jessica, the, like, fashionista of the group, who is, like, elated to go clothes shopping with Charlie. Because while this fake Charlie feels wrong to John, ultimately, she kind of exhibits the idealized traits that the other characters kind of want in her, be it being into them, or being more feminine, or being more into shopping, stuff like that. Now, there's debatably a similar theme that can be taken from the actual Charlie, the actual, real, not fake baby, circus baby Charlie. Debatable, but we'll get to that. So now I'm going to spoil the very end of the book in order to discuss that. Like, as it turns out, the real Charlotte, the real daughter of Henry, actually was killed by the purple guy, with the Charlie we've been following, the Charlie that's been talked about in the books, is actually not the real Charlotte, the real daughter of Henry. Instead, she is an animatronic built by Henry in a way to kind of deal with the grief. Another animatronic being kind of brought to life. Like, the book often talked about the murder of Sammy, Charlotte's twin brother. However, the ending kind of implies that Charlotte was the one who actually died, with Sammy, like, living, and, I don't know, something happened to him. Like, wasn't Henry maybe took him with his mother with the divorce, but the Charlotte we've been following has been an animatronic. And throughout the book, John constantly talks about, like, how this Charlie is his Charlie, and, how much he cares about her, but in a way that feels like he's imagining not a real person, but an idealized version of that person, of a, much in the same way that this hyper-feminine fake Charlie was, and in some same way this more tomboyish version of Charlie kind of fits into that as kind of John's idealized Charlie. Like, a viable interpretation is that the Charlie we've been following has been like an idealized version of Charlie that John imagined as he got a crush on the younger Charlie. So, he imagined like a, newer Charlie that's an adult and, like, he might be into romantically. The main issue with this interpretation is that the book tries to play John and Charlie's, like, romance pretty straight. Like, not just in this one, but, like, in the previous ones. Like, not only in, like, the first book, there was, this, like, kind of will they or won't they, oh, they like each other type stuff. Like, in the second one, they started dating, and, well, John confessed his love to Charlie when she seemingly died. And now in this one, when Charlie seemingly died, or actually died, kind of, animatronics dying is a weird thing, but she also confessed her love, and the book tries to play this as, like, very heartwarming. There's this kind of clash, I feel like, between, the kind of themes of, like, the woman people want Charlie to be, versus, like, kind of playing straight, like, John's, like, romantic feelings for her, not really subverting them in a way that would fit with those themes. Instead, playing it as sweet, that, John is constantly thinking about, oh, this is my Charlie, and plus, Charlie in this book is kind of a missed opportunity. Like, honestly, the entire book, I kind of wish her, like, emotions and, like, relationship to her father and whatnot was explored better, instead of feeling, like, kind of repetitive, if I'm being honest. Plus, in this book, she's, like, despite being a main focus, is kind of not in it much. Like, while Charlie does have some moments of, like my favorite scene in the last book where she got herself out of an animatronic suit, out of all the characters, she's the one that affects the plot least, instead more reacting to the plot as it happens to her. Like some exceptions, obviously, like that animatronic suit I mentioned, but but that kind of feels like the exception rather than the rule, and that kind of makes her feel, and it kind of makes her feel like an object that, like, the other people react to. The people actually advancing the plot. Jessica is the one who snuck into the pizzeria and found William Afton and the missing kids. Charlie didn't. Like, Carlton is the one who snuck into Jessica's apartment and got away from the, like, evil Charlie and the circus baby using like, a piece of tech they heard from John. And, well, technically John heard that from Charlie, He's the one asked who, like, oh, is there a way to make us invisible? Like, by the way, let's talk about that scene because it makes no fucking sense. So, like, Charlie was, making robots that can listen to people, like, a bit advanced for early, but whatever, we'll ignore that for now. But how people could talk to those robots is by putting on an earpiece, which then, now the robots kind of recognize your presence. So John asked, is there a way to do it, but, like, in reverse, so that, like, the robots don't see you? And, like, that's not how it fucking works! Charlie says, I suppose you can make, like, if you reverse the wires, instead make you invisible. I'm like, no! No, like, it's like, effectively those little earphones are like a Bluetooth connection to, like, the robots or something. So, like, by reversing it, you just make a Bluetooth that doesn't work. Because, like, presumably the robots, like, don't need, like, a special device that they're looking for in order to see people. Because, they have eyes and ears or some type of sensory thing that's able to detect humans and detect their environment, as opposed to the robots, which basically, like, look for a signal emitted by this headset. Like, I can deal with the kind of, like, suspension breaking, like, devices that, like, confuse your brain by overwhelming it, so you see, like, shiny wolf robots or whatever, but, like, so, you, like, see, like, a doll as a real person, like, doesn't really make much sense, but you know what, I can deal with it, because it's a cool idea. But this is fucking bullshit! Like, oh my fucking god! Like, no, you would not get camouflaged by reversing a fucking Bluetooth! Like, fuck! Okay, that on my system, let's get back to talking about Charlie. Like, she feels like someone where things happen to her instead of her, like, doing things that advance the plot, but that's more thing here than the previous books, because while the balance certainly tipped that way, she did a lot more things in the previous books, be it offering her expertise on the dead bodies and, like, the previous one, the twisted ones, and, well, getting out of the animatronic suit, and even then kind of focused more on her characterization. Like, not necessarily the best done, in my opinion, but, like, it focused on it at least. It at least was trying to be a character study. This, she's, like, barely there, and, like, the book keeps going on about how great people think Charlie is, and, like, how much they like her, but, like, in a way that feels hollow. And, like, the twist isn't necessarily a bad one, I just kind of wish, like, it was built up more, or that, like, it didn't play these tropes straight, because there is an interesting book in here, but, like, it's played too straight. Like, acknowledge, like, that the Charlie John thinks about is an idealized version that doesn't necessarily exist, or, maybe have her do a thing, because, like, either have us, like, care about Charlie as a character, or, like, don't. Like, don't go on about how, like, this deep connection Charlie has with everyone and then barely talk about her. Don't treat her as a fucking protagonist of the book and then do nothing with her. Because honestly, out of this entire series of books, like, Charlie being, like, a missed opportunity is kind of my main issue with it. Like, it treats her as this ultra important character when really the books are more interested in everyone else. And, like, John especially, if I'm being honest. Like, less so in the first one, but, like, as the series went on, like, the series really did shift more towards John's perspective and John's feelings. Because, like, in the first one, yeah, he's not terribly fleshed out, if I'm being honest. Like, good enough for, like, a secondary character, but, like, not protagonist. But, it kept shifting the focus while still treating Charlie as, like, ultra important. And, like, there are good scenes, and, like, I do like the other characters, like Jessica, and is honestly kind of hilarious, if I'm being honest, and ended up being, like, my favorite character in the book, and like honestly John and Jessica's interactions are pretty fun, and like Carlton, when he's not being a fucking pervert, is like an endearing character. Marla is there. I mean, not as much, like, she's not as bland as like Lamar, but like, and not as strong of a like character hook as like the first one. Like, really Jessica and John are the main focus, and to a pretty big extent Carlton too. And like the unraveling of the mystery I thought was really cool, you know, like finding like this unconscious Charlie in her aunt's house in this weird part of town that was like given to him as a clue from a talking rabbit head, animatronic rabbit head. You know, I love the slow build up to like the reveal of Circus Baby of Elizabeth. And really, like, the ending is really where it lost me, as kind of like the issues with Charlie's character and the issues with the characterization and whatnot, and all kind of come crashing to a head in an ending that kind of left me cold. But like everything before that is great, honestly. I was engaged, I was hooked, but like after they found Charlie and after she like slowly wakes up, she never really got like the attention that she needed. So like overall, I'm glad that I read these books, and like I'm glad that like, you know, I experienced the story, but like it is very much a flawed one, with flaws that do very much become apparent at like the conclusion of the story. Like, there are interesting ideas, and like in this book especially, a really interesting build-up, and like interesting like horror concepts from like robots that can either imitate people or look different than they are, and like how this can mess with your head. But with ultimately an ending to the thing that kinda put their flaws into focus. Mostly, I just kinda wish Charlie was handled a bit differently. Like, hell, if they just subverted the romance, I would have liked it a lot more. Overall, I'd say I like this series, but yeah, it is deeply flawed. Honestly, I like the games more, even, because yeah, while they are very much flawed, you know, the flaws don't feel as significant, and like the narrative through line, I honestly find a bit more fascinating. At the very least, it feels more focused. But overall, hey, if you liked the franchise, I mean, might as well check them out. I mean, they're definitely engaging reads if you know you like the games. That was Swarthycast. If you like this episode, consider subscribing to my YouTube to know when I post new videos, or if you really liked the content I produce, please consider donating to my Patreon, where you can get early videos, behind-the-scenes stuff, and other perks. Thank you for watching, and we'll get to something else. And yes, I know I'm doing something Halloween-related in Christmas time. What do you want me to do?